Today is Wednesday, March 18th, 2015. I'd like to make a couple comments about a number of things. The first one was an article in the Washington Post today regarding some towns and villages from Tikrit up towards Mosul that have been retaken by Iraq. And what's going on here is that these small towns and villages are being retaken back by Iraq. But the Iraqis are being led not by Iraqi soldiers, but a lot by Iraqi militiamen who are Iraqi Shia militiamen who are retaking towns that were under ISIL control. ISIL sort of gives some of them up. There was fighting in a couple of them. And in taking back the towns were Sunni towns, that there are a number of reprisals that are going on, there are a number of atrocities that are going on, and this is being brought up in today's Washington Post, and it's also being brought up by Human Rights Watch. So this is a thing to consider. So you have ISIL, who has taken over parts of Iraq. They've taken over mostly Sunni areas of Iraq, which is the north and northwest areas of Iraq, and that area extends over into Syria, where they actually got their start. Remember that ISIL is Sunni, so we basically had Sunni Baathists, who then became Sunni Al-Qaeda in Mesopotamia, who then became ISIL starting out in Syria and then working its way over back to Iraq. And they took over these towns. Remember, they were a caliphate, so they wanted to run. They wanted geography, so they needed to be able to run towns and let the town function correctly. Police, water, electricity, a judicial system, protection, free trade or commerce, etc. And now they're being taken, and of course, at the time that they were taken over, I don't know how much fighting may or may not have gone on in all of these towns and villages, but again, it was Sunni coming in, and the residents were Sunni. And they might not, and of course they had to put up with whatever ISIL wanted them to, whether it was shakedown or whether it was some murders or whether it was taking women or whether it was payment, etc. But before that, the reason why ISIL had no trouble taking over these towns is that the Shia-led government in Iraq was not doing a very good job in these Sunni areas. So the Sunni people who were there, the tribesmen who were there, may have been worse than the Shia, or it may have been, not as bad as the Shia. So now the Shia militiamen are coming in. They're committing atrocities. So I think this is a very ominous sign. This is that these Shiite militia, which are being trained by Iraqis, which are being led by Iraqis and being armed by Iraqis, that are possibly extending their reach into what's going to be going on in Iraq. Now, remember, when Saddam was in power, he was Sunni. About 20% of the population is Sunni, 70% is Shia, and the Shia were the abused people in Iraq, and now they're running the show and they're taking care of the Sunnis. So, not a good sign that that's going on. And as someone commented about a week or so ago, do not think that the Sunnis are just going to take this lying down. They will be coming back. And remember also that part of this with the Shia is that supposedly 1,500 Shia, I won't call them soldiers or militiamen, were slaughtered and put to death, executed by ISIL about this time last year. So reprisal is in their mood right now. Revenge is in their mood. And the hope is that they will not commit the types of atrocities that ISIL has been committing. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring this up a little bit today is we had some other things that were going on today in Tunesia. That several gunmen went into a museum, which was right next to either the head of government or the presidential palace or the parliament building or something like that. And I believe at this point in time, the count is 17 tourists from different areas of Europe, and possibly also Russia or that area, were killed. There were 2 or 3 gunmen that they know of right now that they think they got those 2 or 3 of them killed, and a couple of policemen were killed. Not a good sign, not in the sense that the fact that they did it so close to the seat of government in Tunisia is not a good sign. Also, either today or yesterday, approximately a dozen government workers, I don't know how do you want to call them, in Libya were killed. And ISIL is trying to claim, or people are trying to claim the mantle of ISIL in Libya, probably because they already were part of a gang, they were part of a tribe, they were part of a militia. And by claiming the name of ISIL, they may be able to get a few more recruits, and they also can do whatever they want indiscriminately to anybody, because it seems as if the ISIL, whatever you want to call it, whatever their philosophy of living by allows them to do pretty much anything to anybody else that doesn't believe what they believe. So I think these are a few ominous things that are going on right now, and time will tell how well things will be addressed. I do believe that ISIL does have a limited time in Iraq and Syria. The big question is can there be something to replace them? The example is my friend Billy is insisting that we can go in with 10,000 men and clean it all up. I don't think it'll take. I think it'll take more than 10,000 men. And are we going to limit ourselves to Iraq? And if we go in and we take over, I think they've taken over Tikrit, but let's say all the towns and villages that are up on the way towards Mosul, take Mosul, secure the dam, even though I think that has already been secured. And what's going to happen? Is there going to be a functioning government that can run all of those places up there so that ISIL can't reemerge, can't begin all over again? And if they do that, do they have to have like a Great Wall of Iraq separating Iraq from Syria so that ISIL in Syria doesn't come running over every time they think the government's weak? Or should we go into Syria and take over those lands, make them part of Iraq, make them part of a new Kurdistan, make it part of Turkey? I don't know. Now I understand that we're talking with Assad, or we're about to start talking to Assad again. So there's a lot of things going on. And as I mentioned, the Sunnis are going to want reprisals back on the Shia. The Shia is wanting reprisals back on the Sunni. That's going to be in Iraq and Syria right now. There is a fair amount of, I won't call it lawlessness, but there's a fair amount of gangs and competing factions in Libya trying to get a hold of the government so that they can get the most money out of the oil, get the most money from the oil. And Tunesia, which I don't know if it's a stable government or not, they had a mass shooting there today that was next to either the Parliament building or the presidential palace, something like that. So these are all ominous things that are going on. And I hope as the spring comes along that we, the United States and all of our partners, can make some headways into trying to establish peace in all of these areas.